So hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben and my buddy Ray. Back, this is our follow-up to last year's video where we talked about iconic horror figures, iconic horror films. Influential. So what we're doing today is something that sort of, what sparked this conversation was was talking about the movie Daredevil.
Yes.
And we wanted to start talking about underrated superhero comic book movies.
Yep.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of play on what we did last year where we went back and forth with our picks. Some of our picks may be the same.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty
that will be the same.
Great minds. No, so basically I did a list of underrated comic book / superhero movies. A couple of honorable mentions that didn't quite make my list. Mm-hmm. And then I did a list of just god-awful movies that should have never even seen the light of day when it comes to comic book / superhero movies. But I think we should start off with the one that sparked the whole conversation, and that's Daredevil. Yep. So many people out there are just like tripping on the fact that Ben Affleck is going to be the new Batman because they think Daredevil was such a bad movie.
It's not
that bad of a movie. It's underrated.
It's completely underrated, and I saw it when it opened back in 2003, and I had a great time with it. And it was. It had a good cast. I mean, I thought that Colin Farrell did a good job as Bullseye.
He was amazing.
Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith played, and the coroner's name was Jack Kirby.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
which
right.
is very cool.
But yeah, I think the one thing, and obviously we both agree that the director's cut is better than the cinematic release.
The director's cut is more about Daredevil protecting Hell's Kitchen, whereas the cinematic version is more about him being in love with Elektra. Yes. And it's like, that is there in the director's cut, but it's more of a background. It's there, it's almost like a hope. He wants that. He wants that to happen. But his primary objective in life is to protect Hell's Kitchen and the people of Hell's Kitchen. It actually shows him in an actual trial.
Yes.
They showed a clip of that in the trailer, and then in the theater version, you just see him at the first trial, and then he's never in a trial again.
Exactly.
And
so they actually show him as Matt Murdock, the lawyer, Matt Murdock, the man, and Daredevil. And it's funny, who he's defending in the director's cut is Coolio, the rapper Coolio. I remember seeing Coolio in the trailer, I'm like, what's he doing in here? Is it a fantastic voyage? But yeah. I think Daredevil suffers from the one thing that I think a lot of superhero movies at the time suffered from, and that is cramming too much into the movie.
Because you have all those characters.
Not only do you have all the characters, you have all the characters' backstories and their interactions with Daredevil. If they had the balls to do it, Daredevil would have worked as a trilogy.
True.
All of the stuff in that movie could have been stretched out into 3 hour and 40-minute long, movies.
I didn't even think about it that way, but you're right. I mean, and I think if you even think about like Batman Forever or some of these other older like 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s when they were just. They're like, oh, we got this property now. Let's put everything into it.
Probably because they're afraid they won't get a sequel.
Yeah, so they said, let's do everything, and then hopefully we'll get a sequel, and then maybe we can do something a little bit different. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like, let's cram everything in, because the first Batman movie had one villain. It had the Joker.
Yeah.
And then after that, they said, let's put 2, let's put 3, let's put 4.
Yep.
And then you got too many.
More and more and more. Yeah. Too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with having, 2... because I think it worked with Catwoman and Penguin.
The Penguin, because Catwoman's more like she's kind of like she's borderline. She's not a complete arch-villain. She's kind of like a middle. She's kind of like just a vigilante.
She is kind of. She's a vigilante and thief.
Yeah. Daredevil
definitely underrated. I thought Ben Affleck's performance was great.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of little things about the movie that I think really stand out if you really pay attention to it. Number one. The fact that he folds his money differently.
Oh yeah, because he folds you see him crease it. And
so you can tell 20s from 1s.
Yeah.
Blind people do that in real life. Something else. When he comes back home from the fight and he spins the locks and he's just like, and then he hits him. Now, and it opens.
Yeah.
That just goes to show how much control he has over his sense of hearing. The fact that when he takes his medications, he chews them.
Yeah.
That is the fastest way for medications to take hold. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, they always say if you're having a heart attack, take an aspirin, chew it.
Chew it. Oh.
There's a reason why people that drop acid, they put it under their tongue. They chew it or they put it under their tongue because it absorbs faster.
Yeah.
Some people hate the fact that he sleeps in a deprivation chamber.
But it's to block out all the sounds.
Well, here's why I've seen on the fanboy sites why they don't like it. They're like, he's Daredevil. He has complete and utter control over all of his senses. Mm-hmm. I agree. But after a night of kicking ass and having your ass kicked,
you want some
you might want to treat yourself from time to time. So I'm not saying he sleeps in it all the time, but after that night, he deserved it.
Yeah. So I also like the scene where you see that he's hurt. It's like, it's not like because he's got that costume on that he's immune to being hurt by some of these battles, and like when he pulls one of his teeth out. I mean, there's a scene where he pulls a tooth out, and I'm like going, he's hurt. A man. Yeah, and
he's a man.
And I like that, and I just thought that showed, it gave the character a soul. He wasn't just this costume vigilante that was, righting wrongs. He was also a human man that was actually hurt by what he was doing, but he was doing it for the costume. Oh, the costumes. There's a figure of, you can't see it, but I have a figure of Daredevil.
There it is. There it is. Nice.
And it's the figure from the movie, and I've had it since 2003, and I think it's a great representation of Daredevil. It looks.
Why don't you tell us a movie that you think is underrated, superhero comic book wise, and I'll see if it's on my list.
Okay, now this is one that Ray and I were talking before the video, and I was saying there's a few on here that aren't superhero movies, and I know we're doing comic book and superhero movies, but I wanted to make sure that this is one that I'm not sure a lot of people know about, and it's Road to Perdition.
That's right. That's not on my list.
And it was a 3-part miniseries of graphic novels done by Max Allan Collins. And this was a movie that came out in 2002 with Tom Hanks and, of course, the new James Bond, Daniel Craig. Mm-hmm. You had Paul Newman, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Fantastic. Stanley Tucci, and directed by Sam Mendes, who's doing did the last James Bond movie, and now he's doing the next one.
Was Tom Hanks nominated for Best Actor for that one?
No, Paul Newman was for Best Supporting.
Oh, okay.
He has a very small part in it, but it's very good. Yeah. And it's a powerful, powerful movie. It has the music of Thomas Newman, beautiful cinematography. I wish I could remember the cinematographer off the top of my head, but it's just, it feels like the 30s. I mean, it looks like the 30s. It feels like the 30s. It's just... It's got some terrific set pieces. The character Tom Hanks plays is so different from anything he had played before.
That's true.
Because he's this quiet, reserved hitman is what he is, and he's working for Mr. Mooney, who is, of course, the Paul Newman character, and Daniel Craig plays Paul Newman's son, his kind of troubled son. Yeah. And I don't want to give too much of it away, because there might be people that aren't aware of it, and I want people that might be interested in it to seek it out, because it's one of those ones where I'm surprised that more people don't talk about it. It kind of got, I don't remember what else came out that year. I think that was the same year that, I don't know if Chicago came out that year. There was some other thing that came out that year.
Yeah.
And
it got overshadowed.
And it came out, the movie came out in the summer, so it was before, the Oscar movies usually come out in November, December. And
people just completely summer blockbusters that go on in the summertime, and so it kind of got overshadowed.
It got completely overlooked.
I was just about to ask you, do you really think that it could be considered underrated? And now that you've brought up all those points, you're right. It can be considered to be underrated. Yeah,
and it's just the way that it looks. I mean, it's like, I love like The Untouchables. It has that kind of feel to it, where it's just like you're in that period, and it's just the way that it was written. You're following Tom Hanks' young son. He's pretty much the narrator for the story. And, it takes place around the time my grandfather would have been the same age as him. So it's like I kind of tied to that. And I really, even when I showed him to my grandparents, they kind of were taken away from it a little bit too. They didn't really embrace it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because it does have violence in it. It is dealing with...
It's a gangster film.
It's a gangster film, yeah. And it's got some heartbreaking scenes in it. And the other person that's great in it is Jude Law.
Yeah.
Another fantastic guy. And that's, I think, one of his best performances. Very underrated. He's very eerie in this movie. Because he's a guy that photographs dead people, and then he's also kind of a contract killer at the same time. So
great costuming, great sets. You really do feel as if you were transported back to the 1930s.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Road to Perdition. People need to check that one out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, one that I believe is underrated, and... I'll probably get some flack for this. Actually, it's 2 movies I'm going to put into one.
Oh, sorry.
The Fantastic Four movies. I think they're underrated.
I like the first one a lot, but I do remember not being crazy about the second one.
I kind of like the second one better, personally.
I like the Silver Surfer.
Yes.
I thought he was fit. They did him perfectly, and I think Lawrence Fishburne did his voice, if I can't remember.
Lawrence Fishburne did the voice, and Doug Jones was the body.
Okay.
Doug Jones is amazing. Abe Sapien in Hellboy.
Oh, that's who I thought. Yeah. Okay, yeah, he's fantastic.
Here's the reason why I think both of the Fantastic Four movies are underrated. I think they set out to do what they meant to do, and that is capture the original spirit and feeling of like the 1962 Fantastic Four comic books.
It was campy.
It was campy, but it was also safe. It was the kind of superhero comic book that parents didn't have to worry about their kids reading. It was fun.
Yeah.
You know, there was some science fiction.
They're going after the mole people.
They're going after the mole people. You know, Galactus is coming and all that, you know. But it was safe. It was fun. Very much like the 1966-67 Fantastic Four cartoon.
Oh yeah, I remember those. I mean, I've seen those like replayed.
Yeah, like
so obviously I wasn't alive then.
Yeah, well, obviously we watched the reruns.
Yeah, we watched the reruns.
Spider-Man cartoon, except for the ones in the 80s. But oh yes, we all know that theme song. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. It's campy. It's safe. It's something I can plop my my 6 or 7 year old niece or nephew in front of the TV to watch and not have to worry about it. Whereas other superhero movies, maybe I would have to worry.
Yeah, they get a little bit. Yeah, because like you said,
like Man of Steel. I'm not putting my 7-year-old niece in front of Man of Steel. Because she doesn't have to.
Oh come on!
But
he was a bad guy.
Yeah, he was a bad guy. But so yeah, I think the Fantastic Four movies, because they set out to do what they're supposed to do, and that's be the kind of fun, innocent kind of superhero movie. They're underrated.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love the first one.
Yeah.
I think Chris Evans was fantastic as the Human Torch. I think he stole everything, but I like. Was it Michael Chiklis?
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis was perfect as the thing.
Their interactions between
they made the movies.
They do.
Yeah, I wasn't Jessica Alba.
Jessica Alba's just
she's okay. I'm not really crazy.
She's hot.
Yeah, well, no kidding. But and the guy I can't remember the guy that played Richards.
I think it's IONN.
Ian?
I think it's pronounced John, but it's spelled IONN or something like that. He's on that new show on ABC now that comes on after Agent Carter.
Oh yeah, where it's like
Forever.
Time Forever. Oh yeah, because he's like
immortal.
Immortal.
He's a really good actor. He was in King Arthur.
Oh yeah,
as well.
I've seen him. He was in Titanic.
Yep.
Yeah, he was the guy on the boat.
He's a good actor. I'm not a huge fan of the cast of the new Fantastic Four reboot.
I'm surprised at the casting for that.
It's very teeny bopper.
Well, I mean, I like Michael B. Jordan. I thought that Fruitvale Station was good. He did.
I don't mind switching the race.
No, that doesn't bother me at all. But I just don't. I think I don't know what they're trying to go for. I've seen the trailer for the new Fantastic Four. I wasn't blown away, and I wasn't underwhelmed. I'm kind of like.
All I know is that the close-up of Reed Richards. Like towards the end of the trailer, it's like I could see his pimples. He's like 12.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like a scientist, older.
Yeah. He's supposed to be like a boy genius.
He always had like the gray hair on the side. I remember,
exactly. So
and that was something they put in the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, sure enough,
the gray hair. After he said, "Hey, you're going gray there," like or something. Yeah, he points out to him.
I will say in the trailer for the new Fantastic Four movie, watching the Thing bust out of his like rock cocoon.
Yeah,
that looks pretty badass.
That was cool, and actually that was the thing that I was going to say. That's the one thing that stuck out to me. I know you see a very quick shot of Johnny turning into the Torch, but it's like from far away.
Yeah. So I don't have high hopes for it, but anyway, Fantastic Four movies, the first two, I think they're slightly underrated.
I didn't think they needed to remake it this quick. No. It was 10 years ago when the first one came out. And same thing with Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah, okay.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
So let's see here. What else do you think is underrated?
Underrated, I'm going to go again. It's kind of it's a little bit different, but you and I talked about this just in I think I mentioned one time, maybe a year ago, that I was watching it, and it was Unbreakable.
I love that movie.
I know a lot of people hate M. Night Shyamalan, especially with his recent efforts. Like,
Last Airbender.
I didn't see it.
I
didn't see the that one. I didn't have a problem with. But I know people didn't like The Happening. People didn't like what's the last one he did with Will Smith and his son.
Oh, did he direct that?
Yeah, he directed that.
Oh, the After
Earth. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a Shyamalan.
Yeah, well, they underplayed it because they knew that it was going to do bad if they put his name up there, so they tried to focus on Will Smith.
Wow.
But yeah, Unbreakable came after Sixth Sense, of course. It came a year after Sixth Sense, a little about a year and change. I think it was about like maybe 13, 14 months. But I remember Sixth Sense, great film. I still think it's a brilliant film. I still think
arguably his best.
See, I still think Unbreakable is his best.
I think you're just a little biased because you're a comic book fan.
I am and I'm not. I think the thing about the Unbreakable is I like the twist better. The twist in Unbreakable, when you find out that the Sam Jackson character is just sort of looking for his looking for his doppelganger. He's looking for somebody that is he's got this rare disease where his bones are very brittle. Mm-hmm. He breaks his bones all the time. He's always like hurt. He's always like it shows him as a kid where he's in a cast, and he finds Bruce Willis, who survives this train accident and is unstoppable. And he has. But I like the whole thing about like that there's always like a weakness to a superhero. You know, that water was his weakness, and that's he can't. It's almost like he can't swim. If he gets too much water in his lungs, it's, so, I mean, there was like things like that I just thought were really clever. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were thinking it was going to be like Sixth Sense. It was going to be this drama, this thing that was like, where, what's this all mean? Is this going to lead to something where it's like this big twist, this big reveal, like, oh, I didn't see that. And it did for me in a different way because I thought Sam Jackson was a good guy, and I think that's why. Did. And that's why, at the very end,
when we find out that he was orchestrating all of these accidents all over the world to try to find Bruce Willis, he was trying. His equivalent.
He was causing like train derailments. He was causing hotel fires and all these things to
buildings
try
to
killing people to find somebody that was the opposite of him,
superhero,
because he was the arch villain, and it's like, and I just.
But he didn't realize he was the archvillain. Yeah. I mean, he knew what he was doing was wrong, but he had this compulsion to find...
like this quest to find his
So, in a way, I think he kind of felt noble about it. I don't know.
Yeah, because he even says at the end, they call me Mr. Glass. And and I just love it. And then a lot of people... I remember seeing the movie in the movie theater, and when it comes up that he's in the asylum for the criminally insane, everybody started laughing, and I'm like, no, that's awesome, because that's a comic book.
Absolutely.
And
the whole movie kind of, it seems like
it's a dreamlike.
It's like a dreamlike kind of movie, but it's also like the entire movie is an origin story.
Yeah, it is, because you're figuring out, because Bruce Willis, the character he plays, and like I said, I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the character's name, but it's like he's kind of going, oh yeah, I haven't been sick.
Yeah.
And how? When was the last time I was? It was like he was just going on and on with his life in this mundane kind of life, and he was unhappy. And then he started realizing these things about himself,
or rediscovering.
Yeah,
because he knew when he was a teenager when he survived that.
Well, he said that that was that he had been hurt in it, and he hadn't been.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't hurt. His girlfriend.
He wanted to have a normal life with his girlfriend, so he lied.
Yeah.
So then he kind of like had a mental block about it, and then it wasn't until like he was lifting weights in the garage and he started to remember, there is something a little different about me.
And that was the other thing that was cool.
The journey is throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. I mean, you see it, you see him at the beginning, and he's a completely different person by the end.
I love the interaction between him and his son.
Yeah.
Oh,
that kid is great, and that kid was in The Gladiator, too.
When he like puts the paper in front of his son,
that's one of the best scenes, because it's out of focus.
The kid starts crying.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
That was like one of the best father-son moments in movie history.
Because it was a quiet moment, and the thing that was great is like you see the kid pouring the orange juice, and then he's looking down, and it's just a shot of the table, and then all of a sudden you slowly see the paper just start to go in front of him, and it's out of focus, and then you see it, and it's like, and he looks up, and it was just like
all Bruce Willis has to do is this.
That was me. The Bruce Willis nod.
Yep. I agree. That's a great movie.
I love that movie.
It's funny. I never really would have considered it to be underrated, only just because I love it so much.
Yeah. See, a lot of people just don't. But like when people talk about his movies that are great, they talk about Signs and they talk about Sixth Sense. They don't talk about Unbreakable. There's certain people that do, and it's usually fans of comic books.
Exactly.
So that's
right. Well, another one that's on my list that I think is underrated is The Punisher. The Thomas Jane The Punisher came out in, 06 or something like that?
04.
Oh, it was 04.
Yeah.
It was that early. Thomas Jane just kicks so much ass in that movie. It's not. I thought John Travolta made a really good villain.
Yeah, he's a great villain. People think he overacts now, and I'm like, he's always acted like that.
He always has.
Yeah.
My favorite scene in that movie is the fight scene between him and the Russian.
Oh yeah. Oh, and is that the one in the apartment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where he's got the striped shirt. It was Kevin Nash, the wrestler.
Yeah.
Oh, that fight scene is amazing. Most of the fight scenes in that whole look, you don't have to like be all cerebral about a movie like The Punisher. Mm-hmm. It's about killing people. Mm-hmm. It's about kicking people's asses and getting revenge. Mm-hmm. that's what it's about. And that's, I think he did,
Yeah, no,
he
was great.
You know?
I was mad that...
It wasn't a perfect movie, but I think it's very underrated.
But I was mad that it got kind of crapped on. It kind of was one of those ones, and it was R. I mean, I feel like with the Punisher, you can't do a PG Punisher movie.
No.
Just like you can't do a PG Deadpool movie, and I hope that they don't do that, because I won't be interested if they do a PG-13 Deadpool. Some of these characters need to be hard.
But yeah,
the Punisher is great.
Punisher
actually,
kicks ass.
I have to say it was one of my honorable mentions.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so
I've not seen the second one without Thomas Jane.
I've heard things about it. I've heard some people say it's really good.
Yeah.
I just
Punisher Warzone, right?
Yeah, Punisher Warzone, and I just wasn't interested in seeing it without Thomas Jane, but Thomas Jane did come back and do a short as the Punisher. Was
at
it
like
Laundry Day?
Yeah, Laundry Day.
Yeah, and I said that was fantastic. And I'm like, really do another Punisher, please. Yes. It's like, do another one. I mean, because Thomas Jane's awesome, and he's really into comic books and things like that. So.
Oh yeah, you could tell he totally studied.
Yeah.
The Punisher to play that character, with the drinking, and just the gunplay, everything.
Yeah, he was great.
I think my only
Rebecca Romijn.
My only thing that I'm not a huge fan of, I think maybe his plot for revenge was just a little bit convoluted.
Yeah.
But eventually, at the very end, you do understand.
The way he kills Travolta at the end was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic. It was a little convoluted, but then it got explained by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But other than that, Punisher kicks ass.
Yeah, I have to say, I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. It's my turn?
Absolutely.
All right. One on my list, and again, this is different, but it is based on a graphic novel series.
And these are not in any particular order.
No, we're just throwing them out here.
Yeah.
So this is not like number 1, number 2, number 3, or whatever. 30 Days a Night.
Okay, I don't have that one on my list.
That is a fantastic, fantastic vampire movie. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the best vampire movies in probably the last, I'm going to say, probably since Lost Boys.
Wow, that's going back.
I mean, it's because my vampire movies Salem's Lot, Fright Night, Lost Boys, those are terrific vampire movies, and I feel like the vampire movies kind of not. I mean, this is before Twilight, so I'm just saying they weren't as marketable. They weren't making as many of them, and then here comes this graphic novel series about this town in Alaska that's plunged into darkness for 30 days every year, and these vampires that just descend upon the town and kill everything in sight. And
Which is smart.
Yeah, I mean, but...
No sunlight.
But they're like, what do you call it? Like gypsies almost. Like they just go from... They don't want to be known, so whoever they kill, they don't want them to turn. So they cut their heads off and things like that. I mean, just like... And it's such a scary movie, and it's such a well-done movie, and it's completely overlooked. Nobody talks about it. Josh Hartnett was fantastic in it. Melissa George was fantastic.
Josh Hartnett has disappeared off the face of the earth.
Well, he's doing Penny Dreadful now.
Oh, okay.
And he did come back, but I think he dropped... This 30 Days a Night was one of the last movies he did before kind of taking a break. And he's very good in it. And just the vampire makeup... It's nightmare.
It's a very scary movie. I don't scare easily when it comes to horror movies.
Well, because you're like me.
Yeah, exactly.
You've seen so many of them.
But that one got me a couple of times.
I actually did an underrated horror film video about it because I feel like nobody talks about it. And there's a lot of people that watched the video that said, I didn't see that movie.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't aware of how good this movie is. Because it is one of those ones where it's like, it was shot really, I think, inexpensively. It wasn't even shot in Alaska. I think it was shot overseas somewhere. Mm-hmm. But the look of it, I think the town was actually built inside like an airplane hangar. So it's like, in all the snow and everything that they did, it was all, made there and everything. But it's really just, like I said, you're just in this world, and it's one of those vampire movies. It's such a smart idea, and it's amazing that it took, Stephen Niles, who wrote the graphic novel series, to come up with this idea. And no one had come up with it before. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said I liked it, because it was original. Mm-hmm. It was scary. It pulled no punches. It was gory. Yep. It was just, and it had good acting in it. And you felt for the characters.
Should be.
Yeah, and it
should be gory. It should be scary as hell, because vampires are scary.
Yeah, they're not
glittery. I can't believe we said that at the same time.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's a place for everything. But I think I said this last year when we did our video. I just don't like when one interpretation of something becomes the norm.
Yes.
I feel like you should have multiple interpretations of something, because I feel like everybody has a different way of telling a story.
Variety.
When you do one thing and everybody says, oh, okay, I like that for this demographic. Hey, but we're going to make it for everybody now. I don't like when they do that. And I think that's what happened to the vampire for a while, and I'm hoping that now that True Blood and Twilight are over,
the Vampire Diaries is still going on though. So
yeah,
and they have a spin-off now too.
Oh, good Lord. I've never watched that.
Yeah,
but 30 Days a Night.
Yes, great movie. I'm going to go ahead and skip this one and go to the next one because I noticed you had one of them, and we can knock both of these out at once. On my list, as far as underrated movies, I had Blade 3.
And I have Blade 2.
And you have Blade 2. It's funny, because I don't consider Blade 2 to be underrated. I think it was actually probably the best out of the three, although I love the first one, too.
But see, a lot of people like the first one better that I talked to.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the first one. That opening scene in the club and the blood coming down and everything. I'm like, yeah, it's a great scene, and I like the movie a lot, but visually and the story... I think the second one is much stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have Ron Perlman, you have Norman Reedus, you have Guillermo del Toro directing. You just and I don't know. I just thought, and I love the creatures in the second one.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Speaking of variety, look, everybody's just like, oh, Blade, it's a superhero movie. Well, it's kind of a horror movie at the same time.
It's a mix. It's a mix of them.
Let me tell you something. If you got a new species of vampire with like opening like trifold jaws that eats other vampires, that has a heart encased in stone so it can't be staked, and is like super powerful and all of that, that's pretty damn scary.
And they're terrifying looking.
They are really. They're like Nosferatu.
What are they called though? They're called something. Are they called Reapers or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Or something like that. And it's just like and it reminds me of The Strain that's going on right now. The movie The Strain, and Guillermo del Toro, of course, tied to that as well. But I think his idea I don't know when he wrote the novels The Strain, if it came around the same time that Blade came out, but they're very similar because the Strain vampires have that tongue and everything, and
they're genetically modified vampires and all of that. So, but I think Blade 3 is also a little underrated. The only problem I have with Blade 3 is that they kind of skip over Dracula. I mean, Dracula's kind of a minor character in that, and then they start calling him Drake instead of Dracula.
I didn't like that.
So I wasn't a huge fan of that.
I wasn't crazy about the guy that played Dracula. I think that was my problem.
The guy, Dominic Purcell?
Yeah,
the guy from...
he was at Prison Break.
Yeah.
But I also...
And him and the guy who played his brother from Prison Break are on The Flash now.
Oh, God, that's
weird. They play Captain Cold in Heatwave.
Oh, that's weird.
It's a really cool cameo.
That's cool, because I've seen him in he was in another movie called The Grave Dancers, and he was the weakest link of that movie. I don't know what it is about his... it's no big deal. I mean, there's probably people that really like him. I'm just not a fan of him, and I didn't see him as Dracula. I thought Dracula should... I didn't want him to look like Tomb of Dracula, because that's not going to fit.
No.
But
I do like how they kept the whole, like, warrior thing. Kind of like he was a combination. I love it whenever vampire movies that involve Dracula combine the traditional, like, way of seeing Dracula from, like, the Bram Stoker novels, as well as Vlad Dracul, when they combine the two of them. They did that in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, true.
They did that in, what was it, the most recent one, Dracula Rising?
Yeah, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
I want to see it.
So
I've heard mixed about it.
I love it whenever they take the historical Dracula and mix it with the fictitious. But other than the way that Dracula was shown in that movie, I love that movie. It's a really good movie.
Ryan Reynolds is fantastic.
Ryan Reynolds and Parker Posey and Triple H's interactions are priceless.
Oh yeah, when he says something he goes, I forget. He insults somebody, and the guy thinks he's talking to him, and he said, "I was talking to her."
Oh yeah, he was talking about you've got like a really small dick or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But I love the fact that we get the Night Stalkers.
Yeah, because that was a huge comic for me in the 90s.
Yeah, man. Blade and the Night Stalkers, man. So I'm glad they incorporated that. I
was mad about
Whistler's daughter was pretty cool.
I was mad about Whistler dying. I think that was the other thing that pissed me off, because getting Whistler back to where he was in Blade 2 was such a part of a story.
It was.
Because you thought Whistler died. Yeah. You find out that Blade's been looking for him. That's why he was in Russia at the end of the first one. He was looking for Whistler. He gets Whistler back. And you don't know if Whistler is good or not through pretty much the whole movie of Blade 2. And then you find out at the end,
you can trust him or not.
Yeah, then you find out that the Norman Reedus character was actually the bad guy.
Yep.
and Whistler was still good. And then I was like, cool, they're back together. And then the third one, they kill him like in the first 15 minutes. And I'm like, I didn't really like that.
Well, but at least he went out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, I know, but it was like,
he went out as a badass.
I know, but it's like, I guess that's just a personal thing. It's like, it just sort of was like...
It might have been a contract thing with Chris Christopherson, for all we know, that he just didn't really want to do another one. Yeah. And then he just said, okay, I'll do a cameo, kill me off early. Yeah, I don't know the circumstances. I would guess that's a possibility.
It could have been, but yeah,
Blade 2 and Blade 3. Yeah, they're
I
really
still like
good
Blade 3. I have all 3 of them. So,
same here. Yeah, the TV series was horrible.
I didn't want to even buy that.
Oh my god,
look at that.
So.